Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail here, coming back at you. Boy, today there is just so much good news going on, really in the last couple days, that I just decided I wanted to talk about it. Still have plans to do the deep dive on earnings from this last round, the Fudbuster scorecard. If you followed me a while, you know what I'm talking about. Got plans to talk through Q3, what's the forecast, how are we looking, and then Q4. Tease, I guess, or a early read on that. Adam already said Q4 is looking amazing. I agree with him. I'll give you my point of view on it and all of that. But today, just wanted to really talk. I mean, you can even see the title here, Proof that the Go plan is working. You guys know that sometimes I like to focus on data and facts over FUD. So I'm going to show you a little bit of data-backed proof that the Go plan, I believe, is working, that the team has done a great job managing the company and setting us up for a run we're about to go on. And just all this bullish news. So speaking of bullish news, weapons is actually increasing the amount of screens it will be showing on in its second weekend. That is very, very rare, extremely rare, that you go from a release weekend, a launch weekend, into the second weekend and actually increase screens. So it's kind of acting a little bit like Sinners did. I don't want to say anywhere, quite that size. Sinners was an amazing phenomenon, but weapons now following up with just fantastic results and great news. It's getting even more screens because it's doing so well. Real quick, if you missed the last video, I just highly encourage you to go back and see it. I had said on X, if you don't follow me on X, I'm also Stock Retail there, same username. But anyway, I had said on X that I really honestly think that might be the most important video I have made to date. So I encourage you to go see it. Just teasing that you'll get a lot of information about, in particular, our fails to deliver over the years, how big AMC really was, compared even to a lot of the rest of the market, and a lot of the story of how it ties to FTX, the tokens, and everything. Some people said, oh, I don't know if there's a lot of new news there. Many people, I don't know, it seems you reacted well to it, that it was a hit, because I will say, I think honestly it was... I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? I just think it was really, really big, because I pulled 109 FTD files from the SEC. Yes, 109 of them. Also funny number, obviously, with Kitty using that 109. Well, he used 109, right, which could be 69. But either way, I pulled 109 FTD files. I went through the data very deeply and then tied it to the events of our story. And you can see very clearly, and I think it gives you a lot of confidence of how big we are, how big a problem this is, why this matters, and that we are not wrong. So I'd love for you to check that out so you cannot get gaslighted. Like I said, facts over FUD. But let's go with today's video. All right, so here I want to show you, and then I'm actually going to zoom in and make this even more obvious. The data, if you followed me a while, I worked at Nike for 21 years, and I used to tell my teams, let the data tell a story. The data itself will reveal to you what's going on. So you just pull the information, be agnostic, take a look at it, it tells you something. Okay, so here's the thing. I just was looking at this on my spreadsheet earlier today, and I was like, dang, because, full disclosure, I honestly felt like, oh gosh, I wish we'd have had more attendance, higher attendance this quarter and all that kind of stuff. Probably same as you, right? I'm just anxious for the win. We all are. There's nothing wrong with that. It's been a long journey. But then I started looking at the data. So again, let the data tell a story that is separated from emotions. I was like, dang, I really need to talk about this, because honestly, full credit to Adam and team. They are accomplishing the mission. So let's just look at this, and I'll show you what this is. On the left, this axis is just the domestic box office in billions. Well, I guess not in billions, in millions. So once again, I have titled this wrong. I apologize. I will fix that. But anyway, so here's the domestic box office in millions. And so this is like 2.8 billion right here that I'm hovering around. All right, and then on the right, this is indeed in millions. This is AMC's net income, or the bottom line of our earnings. So this is our earnings. Okay, so now what I want you to see, take a look. So we know we just finished under 2.7 billion at the domestic box office. Here's 2.67, all right? So you could find some comparable quarters, and we're going to talk about that. That's what we're going to zoom in on. But take a look, here was not every single one of these, almost all but one of these quarters. So this is half of 2018, all of 2019. Okay, of these 6 quarters, all but one were bigger than the quarter we just finished. But notice that we actually beat quite a few of them in our earnings. So here's 2.7. That's $100 million, $60 million bigger box office. And look how back then AMC had a negative 100 on the earnings. Here you add almost $300 million at the box office. So what would have happened if the box office had been $300 million bigger just in the US, right? And then you got to think through, AMC has our Europe locations globally and all that. But really key in on this. Take a look. So here is, what if we had added $600 million at the box office? This is your end game quarter. That's why this is so huge and such an outlier. And yet AMC only made $49 million then. I mean, you can imagine, had we added another more than $500 million at the box office in one quarter here, imagine where we would have jumped. This negative 4.7 was our earnings, where that would have jumped, right? And so I'm going to just prove to you that we're more profitable now. And really, these last couple do prove it. So here's the second half of 2019. Here is one quarter that was about $140 million bigger at the box office, and yet $50 million worse in earnings. So just think from 2019 to now, here's a bigger box office and less earnings. We have a smaller box office now and better earnings. Here is this about $200 million bigger box office, more than that, and worse earnings pre-COVID. So it very, very clearly shows you that your management team has made this company stronger than pre-COVID. But let's zoom in and actually just look at some comparable quarters. And this really tells the story. So these are the same quarters. All I've done is I've just removed these outliers. I've removed this 2.9 billion, the 3.2, and the 2.4. So let's look at some quarters that look like the quarter we just finished. So here, Q2 of 25, we just finished this $2.67 billion box office. You can see, I just said we had our minus 4.7 earnings, almost flat, right? Adam told you about the EBITDA number that was significantly positive. The cash from operations was positive, like $130 plus million. The free cash flow was positive, $88 million. So on this, what you can see is a lower box office. The bars are the box office. The line is AMC's earnings. On this lower box office than, this 2018 and these two 2019 quarters, notice that the earnings is significantly better. So you had a bigger box office, negative 100, a bigger box office, negative 55, an even bigger box office, negative 14, and yet on this much smaller box office. So now all I want you to imagine is if we had like one more big movie or something, and this bar was up at 2.8 billion, then imagine what this earnings number would have done. And now remember too, how much Adam has talked about operating leverage. If the box office goes up as the revenues increase, that's what Adam's telling you. There's a lot of our expenses that don't increase commensurately with our revenues. I've told you guys before, if you have a general manager at a property, you pay them when it's a tiny box office and you pay them when it's a huge box office. You don't necessarily change how much you're paying them. So that expense is not going up as your revenues go up. You're keeping more and more of your revenues. That's what operating leverage is. Another example, right? You pay your rent at a property, whether it's a big box office or a small box office. But if that expense stays the same as your revenues go up, you can just hear how, I start to keep more and more of my revenues. So what happens is this number here, this orange line, like after Q4, I'm going to show you how that's going to be, a lot higher. I think we're going to do that in Q4. We'll see. Okay, so all I want you to just catch is, just say it super simply. On a smaller box office than pre-COVID, we're achieving higher earnings than pre-COVID. I think that's a clear sign, that what the guys are doing is working. So now let's just switch to news. This is going to be kind of short and sweet video. Just got a lot of bullish news going. Just one example here. I don't know if you saw that World War Z. So Paramount is now looking to expand the World War Z universe. Actually, it's a priority for the new Paramount film execs. And so you're going to start seeing new World War Z movies. And, you saw how great Brad Pitt did with F1. I don't know. It wasn't necessarily confirmed that Brad Pitt would be in these. I'm going to imagine he would. I don't know why they wouldn't, include him in there. So just an example, and you'll see like Top Gun Maverick 3 is a top priority as well. There are just, I guess I should say Top Gun 3, not Maverick 3. Anyway, there have been just a variety of announcements lately on films that are getting green lighted. And so what you should be saying is, Hollywood studios are committing to spending money on big films. That tells you their level of confidence in the theatrical industry. If you missed, today Adam was on, Fox Business. Yesterday he was on, I believe it was CNBC. Again, if you follow me on X, you'll see that I did post about that yesterday. Both interviews were very good. Adam did a great job. I mean, no surprise, he does a great job when he shows up on those. But what I noticed different, if you were here in 2021 and 2022, I promise I'm not taking shots at Liz here, but there were times Liz, others on CNBC, and of course MSNBC and a lot of other media outlets were pretty rough on AMC. They were not necessarily overly friendly. And I will just say, I mean, even look at Liz's post here. The movie industry is coming back. And if you go watch that interview, I encourage you to. Always good to hear from him directly as opposed to from me or other influencers or anything like that. It's a great interview. There's a lot of positivity in that. It's very bullish, very positive. So that was really cool to see. And then, I just was kind of touching on Paramount. So Adam talked about in the earnings call, and I said in my sort of, after party, I held a live on here on YouTube. So you can go see that live. I went through a lot of responses to the earnings, and I said I kind of felt like this might have been the biggest news from AMC's earnings call. So you've seen the Skydance Paramount merger has happened. Adam specifically said, hey, we believe that Skydance is basically bringing more money, that Paramount was making great films, but maybe a little bit tighter with cash, and Skydance was bringing the financing to be able to supercharge what they were doing. And then you see, basically a day or two later, the announcement came out that Paramount is moving from 8 films a year to 20 films a year. Guys, say that again. Paramount, we're talking Maverick and other really big movies. I just talked to you about World War Z. They're moving from making 8 films a year to making 20 films a year. They're going to move to 250% of what they've been doing. Okay? Almost tripling their output. And I have said, let's go back. Okay? I've said over and over, literally this YouTube was created in 2022 to talk to you about how AMC did not need pre-COVID box office levels to achieve better earnings than pre-COVID. So I am going to pat myself on the back that, dang, I called that at the end of 2022 and showed you guys all the analysis to prove it. And we certainly were early, but boy, were we not wrong. Because I want you to just think about, if you take this and just Paramount alone, you say, all right, they're going to go 2.5 times the amount of movies they're making, right? So from 8 to 20. Well, you're adding 12 of them. If you spread that across 4 quarters, that's an extra 3 movies a quarter from Paramount. Just say that again, an extra. So take this quarter we just had, add 3 more Paramount movies to it. This orange line goes whoop, right? And again, remember, with our fixed costs, adding those 3 movies is not the same as kind of, having 3 movies in a smaller box office. We're going to keep a lot more revenue. Things are looking up for us, but that's not it. Paramount also said they have no interest in making straight-to-streaming movies. They're focused on theatrical. Sony has kind of said that in the past. Another one that I've shown you long ago that these guys said. I think I had a video a couple of years ago on that as well. I know I did. I just don't remember the exact timing. It was kind of when we were in the court case, the ape court case. And I was showing you that several studios were saying they kind of wanted to just focus on theatrical because, it's, you might think it's counterintuitive, but I think it makes sense. When you have a big theatrical movie like Maverick, it actually does better at streaming. It makes their streaming platform even more relevant. And I'm just honestly thinking that Netflix is just being really obtuse on this one because, it provides brand free marketing basically to your platform. Maverick is still one of, if not the top watched movie on Paramount Plus years later. It certainly earns them subscriptions, and that was big at theatrical first. So the team clearly focused. Skydance is Paramount, no interest in original streaming movies, doubling down on a robust theatrical release, more than doubling. So I told you we're getting to 2.5 times for them, and that is still not all with Paramount. I got a little formatting issue here. This says Stranger Things, not Anger Things. I was just, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's keep going. So, Stranger Things creators, the Duffer Brothers, are negotiating leaving Netflix to join Paramount Pictures. But check out why. To exclusively create film and television with an emphasis on what? Tentpole movies. Now, Paramount, not going to make movies for streaming. You could argue these are the biggest creators in streaming, are moving to create tentpole movies. And, for Paramount, who said we're not making streaming movies. So these are theatrical. So imagine Netflix losing the creators of arguably the thing that's making Netflix right now. What's bigger than Stranger Things on Netflix? I don't think there's anything. I've argued for a long time they ought to put that in theaters, but they don't listen to me and have not for a long time. And so, boy, that is, I don't know if you could get more bullish than this. If these guys saying, all right, we did streaming, we want to make movies for theaters. Okay, but it's not all about just Paramount, right? So Warner Brothers, same thing. Recently, this is older, so you can see this was August 7th, so many of you have probably already heard this, but Warner Brothers had committed to making 12 to 14 theatrical releases annually across their key labels. Label being like DC. Obviously, we got Dune. And by the way, I forgot to put in this video that Warner Brothers, for the first time ever for them, I believe it's 6 movies in a row that had a $40 million opening weekend or bigger. Some were way bigger than that, right? Like Superman was a lot more than 40. But Weapons was their 6th movie in a row. So you had like Sinners, Superman, Weapons, Minecraft, and unfortunately I'm forgetting what else they did. But I had posted that on X as well. So first time ever, never been done before for Warner Brothers, that they had 6 in a row, 40 million or bigger at the domestic box office for just the opening weekend. And on the heels of that, they were saying, all right, we're investing, we're going to build 12 to 14 theatrical releases. You can go find also, by the way, that Warner Brothers, I want to say a year or two ago, said the same thing as Paramount. They don't want to make movies for streaming anymore. They're just focused on theatrical. So all the studios are just saying theatrical is working to the point that we are just pouring investment dollars into it. You guys should be hearing future profits in your stock. And so just say it all out loud real quick, just kind of, for fun. You probably already know, but in the end of, this says summer here, that I just probably grabbed the wrong screenshot because it's coming out at the end of September, that we're going to get the 3 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies back in theaters. It'll do it twice. They're going to run it in September. They're going to run it again in October. I am super excited about that. So that's going to be a lot of fun, which, by the way, is also what's clicking right now in theatrical. I think I've told you here recently that AMC is a part owner in A24, whose focus is basically re-releasing movies. Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is coming back out. Toy Story, the original, is coming back out. Obviously, we've got these Spider-Man movies. I don't know that was A24. The Spider-Man could be Sony. I think it might be A24, actually. And so there's a bunch of re-releases that are coming out that AMC is part owner of A24, who's re-releasing them. Plus, it's just fun to get more theatrical releases and fill in some of the gaps and see some movies we all love. So take a look at that sometime. Just go to A24's website, too. You'll see a bunch. All right, so say all of this out loud. AMC is more profitable than ever before. As more movies are coming, that means profits are going to take flight. And I'm using Adam's language on purpose. I think he said the sky's the limit. And I don't know if you caught, too, he was kind of honoring James Lovell and some other things. So that was kind of cool to see. Anyway, the studios are increasing investment and commitment to theatrical. And the biggest streaming talent out there is headed to theatrical. And then the main other thing to say out loud to yourself, we will win. So let's go.